would have you do. If you can't honor God where you're at, doing what you're doing, my friend, then things need to radically change. You can't just say, well, it won't work. And well, tell me how it could work. I fear that this mentality has crept into Christianity. This idea of, well, your way doesn't work. Well, God's way doesn't work. This is why we're doing it this way. I'm telling you this works. Can you see this working? Friend, did it work? No, it pacified Micah's desire to have a God in his house. Now here's the funny story. I think this is comical. The Danites, the rascals, decide to move, and they hadn't been given an inheritance. They hadn't been assigned an inheritance. And so they decided to send 5 men of valor out, mighty men, to go and find a good place for them to live. Specifically, what they were looking for was a place that would be easy to take. In other words, they were looking for a place that didn't have a military, didn't have walls, a place where people were living comfortably like the Zidonians, that they could come in, conquer them, and displace them easily. And so they sent out 5 men. On the way, they went by Ephraim, and they stopped which was by Micah's house, and on their way, they heard a voice which was familiar to them. Evidently, they knew this Levite priest. Either they recognized his accent, or they recognized him personally. I don't know which. But they said to him, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, hey, fellas, come on into the chapel, and I'll show you. Would you like me to inquire of the Lord for you?" And they asked him to inquire of the Lord. And they were impressed. And they said, "What about it? Are we going to have peace and safety?" And he said, "The Lord's going to be with you. Go your way." And he blessed them, and they went away feeling warm and fuzzy and all terrific. Friend, I want to say to you, I've asked myself this question: did God give that message to that priest for the Danites? Did God tell the Levite that? And here we find some more application. You can find a person who looks to be religious, and he can give you some blessing, and it may seem that all goes well. But just because you're unopposed or you weren't stopped at something doesn't mean God's blessed it. Friend, God's hand of blessing is recognizable. God's hand of blessing is recognizable, and their idea is nothing went wrong, and so this is a legitimate form for worship. They made it to where they were going. They found a country that they thought that they could move to and easily take. And so here they are, they're moving, and as they're beginning to go by the house of Micah with the whole tribe of Dan, with 600 mighty men of valor, as they're passing by Micah's place, these 5 guys remember this religious system that Micah set up and how nice it was, how comfortable it is, and they decide to adopt it. And they said, "Hey, this guy's got a worship system, he's got a Levite priest, let's go take it." And so now they're going to steal Micah's church. And so here they come, they going by Ephraim, and they come by Micah's house. 600 men stand outside the gate. The 5 guys that had been there before went in, took the ephod, took the molten image and the graven image. And as they're leaving, the fellow who's supposed to be tending those things discovers that they're coming. Now I want to say a word about this fellow. What kind of a man would sell himself to be a priest when he's a Levitical legitimate priest? What kind of a man would sell himself to be a priest for 10 shekels of silver a year, a change in raiment and food? I'll tell you what kind of a man. Kind of guy that will sell himself for 11 shekels of silver, or 12 shekels of silver, or a larger congregation. And here we find a man who's willing to do whatever it takes to have a comfortable living. And so here he sees his living going right out the door, and they said, "Stop your mouth, be quiet, shush, shush. And you come with us." Is it better to be a priest of a tribe or a person? Is it better to be a priest of 600 people or one person and his neighbors? And he said, "Wow, I see my congregation growing. Well, we got big all of a sudden." And so he said, "Hey, good." And then the scripture describes him as they're going along, he's in the midst of them. And so now here he is, and he's like, this is even better. God's got to be pleased with this. Here I am ministering to a whole tribe of his people. And this Levite is absolutely, to me, astounding. He's the worst sellout in the scripture. There's just no worse sellout than a person who will sell his religion. And this guy just sold out truth for religion. And he'll go anywhere. And let me ask you a question. What would move him to leave the Danites?
Bigger tribe.
Yeah, bigger tribe, better pay, and whatever it takes. I'll tell you, this guy is a sellout. And if he'll leave Micah... Did Micah wrong this Levite? No. I mean, Micah said, I'll give you this. And the guy said, that sounds good. I'll take it. Friend, I want to say to you, you can make an application about the man of God, or you can make an application for yourself as well. And if you'll do whatever it takes, if you will settle for whatever just to be comfortable, can I say to you, you'll do even more for more comfort? Don't be a sellout. Listen, when you have truth, stand by it. What if the Danites had killed the Levite? Let's ask another what-if question, since we're being hypothetical this evening. You know how much I love to be hypothetical. What if the Levite didn't go with them? What if he didn't go with them? What if he didn't show, what's his name, Gershom? Yeah, Gershom. Jonathan, the son of Gershom. What if he didn't show Jonathan the methods for contemporary worship with an ephod and a graven image and a molten image? We don't know. We don't know. Now, all right. Now we've got all kinds of loose ends that are out there that we want to tie up, and then we'll be finished. Okay. The Levite, by the way, he's unnamed. This Levite goes with the children of Dan. Micah follows along, and his neighbors go along with him. So Micah gets a force. Obviously, it's not as great a force as what the Danites have. But he's not by himself. All his neighbors go with him. And they pursue Dan. Of course, Dan would have had his cattle and his possessions because he's moving. So the children of Dan would have been moving slowly. They catch up behind him. And of course, as would have been common sense, probably the mightiest men of valor, the greatest warriors, would have been taking up the rear for the defense of the Danites so that they couldn't be fallen on by stragglers, or so that enemies couldn't fall on the stragglers. And they see a host coming, and while they're a ways off, they yell to them, "What are you guys doing? What do you want?" And Micah tries this logical argument with these people. He realizes that he is an inferior force, and so he tries to reason with these people. And he says to the Danites, he said, if you took my gods and my worship, and basically his argument was, I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to worship the Lord now? You took it from me. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they said, shut up, or some mighty men are going to grab you, and you're going to lose your life as well as your idols. And for the Danite, now think of the justice here. Did this Levite, was he Micah's priest? Should he have stayed with Micah? I'll bet you he didn't serve out his full term either. Did the idols and the ephod, did they belong to Micah? Yes, they did. I mean, his mom gave him the money he stole from her to buy them. Did Micah have a good argument? Sure. You know what Dan said? Dan said, somebody's going to run on you and you're going to die and lose your life too, so just get over it. And Micah did. He said, oh, well, in that case, okay, guys, I'll see you. Friend, Micah had a religion that wasn't worth dying for. Made him feel good, made him comfortable, but it wasn't worth dying for. And the Danites stole it from him, and now they had a religion that wasn't worth dying for as well. And I want to just conclude with a couple of things. It's astounding to me that this would be included in the history of the nation of Israel, but I think it's necessary so that we can understand the hearts of man. Why would God include this account in the Scripture? Is this such an important event in the nation of Israel? One man's God, 600 men that worshipped it? From my perspective, I'd say, no, they're just a bunch of idolaters. There were plenty of idolaters in the history of the nation of Israel. There's something that's unique about this set, though, and that is this. They tried to legitimize their idolatry by calling it the worship of Jehovah